They are still in control of their own fate. They're sitting at 2-2 in the group, tied now with Splice. A win here would be really, really nice because we have to remember they were the only team out of the 3 to actually get a win off of FPX in that first round robin. So that does give them a slight advantage in this kind of second day.
And of course, now we see Fofo's LeBlanc banned out, as well as the Nautilus from the side of GAM, the Kiana, the Pantheon, all very standard from the side of J-Team. See what they want to take away as the final option. Could be the Nocturne from Levi. He did press R 23 times in that game. It is 2 minutes and 18 seconds of Nocturne darkness, for those of you who are counting.
Ooh.
And the Akali first pick, I honestly love it. I love seeing this champ in the hands of GAM Esports. They do love to pick constant scrappy fights, and Akali feels like the perfect pick to do it.
Yeah, last time they played against each other, the Akali was put much later on into the draft. Now I'm looking at the Syndra here for J-Team. Last time they wanted this 4 little V down on the bottom side of the map, went for a first pick on that champion as well, and the flexibility of that type of pick is definitely super, super valuable. But I'm always looking at team fighting one more time, and Gragas does that job absolutely perfect.
Not only does he team fight well, he says, Kled and Nocturne, get away from the rest of my team very, very well. I feel like if we see a similar draft from last time, J-Team are going to be happy to have that Gragas to stop fights from happening when terms are not their own.
Strong engage, strong disengage, gives you magic damage out of the jungle, a lot of flexibility going forward with that. Kaisa also, we talk about this a lot, a champion that can itemize defensively very, very effectively against dive. Things like the Zonias that we've already seen come out today against some of these dive style compositions. And I think that J-Team are really trying to cater a little bit towards what they're expecting to come out of GAM.
And that's where GAM is saying we want a little bit more early game skirmish power here with Levi's signature Lee Sin. I'll be honest, I've been wanting more out of Levi, especially in the early game throughout this tournament. We're turning to one of these champions that he has looked so fantastic on in the past is going to be GAM's way in the early game to get off to an early lead.
And while Lee Sin can dominate early, in the past in some of these drafts where they don't have consistent hard engage, they fail to force fights. Like they did against Splice the first time around, especially where they were really relying on some inconsistent engage tools. So I want to see GAM draft some sort of hard engage support that can kind of guaranteed start up the fight.
Right, because right now they don't have any of that. They got an Akali, they've got a Ryze, they have really strong skirmishing power, damage output, maybe even a little side lane action with that Ryze as well, but they will need to bolster up those all-in engages, and that's where J-Team should be banning away stuff like, you know, the Leona or perhaps the Alistar here to remove those from being good options.
And interesting that they've opted to ban the Heimer. Most likely just don't want to play against it, but it would be the 3rd magic damage threat for the side of GAM. But regardless, obviously only bot lane options really need to be limited at this stage, sort of a truly wild flex pick, so that it seems pretty cut and dry for J-Team what they want to take away. Clear to them what the enemy is trying to do.
Yeah, the only real reasoning I can see for banning out this Heimer is you just don't want to allow GAM to have kind of this stable, avoidable bot lane, essentially, where they can sit there with the Heimer, park themselves behind the turrets, because GAM almost always wants to play through their solo lanes and play aggressively in that way, but J-Team very clearly expecting some sort of mage shenanigans to be coming through the bot lane.
And I think with the Syndra banned away, the Heimer and the Veigar, a lot of the options for the champions just below the top tier for the bot lane carries, like the Kaisa and the Xayah, they must just think that no other AD carry is really as good as a mage at this point, trying to make sure that Xin is not on one of those options. As the Azir does now get locked in for Fofo in the mid lane, but the Tristana is, of course, up and available.
I do like seeing the Fofo Azir now. We don't think Ryze is going to the bottom lane, so Azir should be comfortable in either of these two matchups with a little bit of a range advantage push as well in those early levels here. So Fofo will be taking that champion, and it fits the bill. Maybe some early game lane priority, perhaps that scaling too that we wanted to see, and the self-peel on the backline to make sure that an Akali can't actually close the gap and then stick to you.
I think it's very smart. Azir, while you don't really want to have any sort of all-in fights early, you have such a strong push, and then Gragas can play towards the Renekton, which is going to be a really strong 2v2, and Volibear, this is going to be their form of engage, I guess. You could utilize with the Ryze, the Realm Warp to try to send you into the backline, and it does give very powerful all-in a bot lane 2v2.
Yeah, this is anticipation of an Alistar or a Leona, where you can interrupt their jump forward and self-peel for you. So I honestly would be surprised to see the Alistar come in, even though it is such a strong pairing next to the Kaisa. Can definitely struggle up against the Volibear, who also has really good early game all-ins, thanks to the passive and the bite. Next to a Tristana, this is a bot lane 2v2 that with early intervention from Levi can pop off.
It really can. If you can actually get that flash fling onto the Kaisa, jump on him with that Tristana, the slow comes in from there, Levi coming in as well, it becomes very, very difficult. And as you're saying, you can actually, roar Alistar out of the combo utilizing that E.
Now, the problem with the Volibear is going to be the lack of reliable engage here. You mentioned this earlier, wanted something that could hard force Azael. Volibear, yes, you can get the Righteous Glory. Yes, you can run at people, but you can get knocked away by so many tools. This has to pay off early, otherwise it gets outscaled brutally.
Yeah, I mean, in mid-game, in late game, you're trying to run through Azir soldiers, an Azir wall.
That's no fun.
Dragons can disengage. It becomes extremely difficult to actually get on top of these champions. You really become very, very reliant on flash, and that is kind of what I think that GAM is going to have to play around. Kick flash, flash fling. Besides that, they don't really have any good ways to start fighting.
Rise well, more Volibear into the backline, that's all they've got.
That's a creative answer, Ender. Well, at the end of the day, it's all eyes on the early game for the side of GAM. Need to get something done up against CTBC J-Team as we move into what could be an elimination match for GAM.
Has venido. De lujo. Cero, abre. Cero, tenemos visita, colega. Abre la puerta. Genial. Cero al desaparecido. Ven a mi oficina / acuario de museo para que te pueda dar este suculento fragmento de la llave. Ahora solo tengo que averiguar a dónde ha ido Cero. Tranqui, Liam, viene conmigo. Es VIP. Tiene acceso completo.
Uy, perdón. Vaya, eres buscacámaras
And here we
de
go,
verdad.
GAM
Vamos, por
versus J-Team. Third match of the day. Once again, two teams will go home today. Two will advance on to the quarterfinals. And we talked about all eyes in the early game, and I think we just have to talk more about the Volibear because this is... I've seen it as a counter to Yuumi, but the blind pick Volibear just seems so bold to me.
I mean, it certainly is here, but it feeds into this idea that GAM want to attack you in the early game. And I honestly think that Levi has to visit this bottom lane early because level 2, I think even you have these all-in tools with Tristana rocket jump on top of the bomb, as well as Volibear jumping around with 2 CC options on his Q and E. So this could even be a level 2 gank option for Levi, and good vision coverage from J-Team could just make that absolutely not an option.
And if they can get ahead in that bottom lane, then all of a sudden Tristana is able to start threatening these turrets, is able to start utilizing her range and damage on these turrets to start moving around the map and establishing a gold lead, which could allow them to really snowball throughout that mid game.
And of course, if you're Volibear, and it's still the early game when you get Righteous Glory, you kill anyone you see. Past 20 minutes, it's a very different story, but if you can snowball early, it's very easy to keep that ball rolling with a champ like Volibear on your team, but now you see it. Setting up for the bottom side. It could just be Krugs for Levi.
Yeah, Levi for a second was actually walking with them towards bot lane, so I was kind of curious, is he just going to walk straight to lane and try to gank right away? With this Krug clear, it is unlikely that I think he would go back towards bot, and you can actually see on the minimap he's cheating up towards the draft.
Yeah, Xin also started with E at level 1, so it's much easier to just push that wave away from being a gankable option. Still could be the case, though, that once Levi finishes his full clear and gets his first base off, that is when he could look towards the bottom side of the map, because right now, he doesn't have a lot of good options to play around. Probably not going to be super helpful in terms of setting up ganks in the top side. Fofo, very safe to just push and move down mid lane, so he doesn't really have gank options, he doesn't have invade options. None of the things that Levi likes to do on the Lee Sin are open to him right now.
Pretty much has to be something like an empowered root from the Rise to set up that Lee Sin Q, and then maybe you can get in and try to make something happen on Fofo.
And that looks like this is exactly what it's going to be. Ask and you shall receive, Azael. Goodbye to the Azir. First blood for GAM.
Oh, Fofo thought he was safe. He had a ward in the river, but didn't expect Levi to come over that wall, so he's hugging the side of the jungle that Levi is on.
Double flash there. They just fully committed to it, and that is the kind of play that GAM can really make you worry with. They played this very, very well. It's just the immediate empower, flash W, sets up the guaranteed Q there, and in he goes.
Yeah, Levi actually flashes over the wall instead of taking the Q that he landed to make sure he can maximize that execute DPS. And now there's even a ward that he ward hopped to that's going to spot out Hana, looking for a player on mid himself.
And I also love that E flash from Lee Sin, because then if Fofo immediately flashes away, you still have the resonating strike to actually follow after him. And I think that's why we saw Fofo not even bother using the flash there, knowing he was dead.
Honestly, pretty good patience coming in from him, but Levi once again trying to make his presence known here in the early game. Will move over, and the Krugs are up and available, but
Well, he's counting the CS from Hana, right? You see him show on that ward around your middle lane. You know that he didn't actually take the Krug camp, so Levi is easily able to take that one away. And now his own Krugs aren't going to be spawning around till 4:25 seconds into the game, so he can reset and pick that up super easy.
He was spotted though, so Hana knows there's no chance of a counter gank. So we'll see if he can actually make something happen. Remember, there's no flash on Rise, and this is a potential E-flash here coming through from Hana, but Kiaya is playing so intelligently towards the top side of the map, so they don't actually know, is Lee Sin in the brush now?
Exactly.
How close is he? And they don't have the ability to make that play.
And even if you jump on him, you can't actually chase him up into that river because you know Levi is on that side. Now, just coming down bottom lane, clearing away some wards, potentially trying to zone away, but you see the instant rotation here from Gam. This team does like to play proactively in the early game, and while we haven't always seen it pay off here so far in the group stage, I like what I'm seeing out of the squad already.
I did also really like that small move from Kiaya down towards the bottom lane. Even when you just step out of vision, you step into that fog, the other team all of a sudden has to respect the possibility of you completing that roam, of what happens if we commit to this dive and then the Rise shows up. So it always makes your opponents play with a little bit more respect, but you have to look at this bottom lane and see, outside of any potential all-in from the Volibear, the laning is not going that great.
Yeah, down 10 CS right now. To their defense, though, top lane going fantastically for Zeros, and Levi has over a full level lead on Hana because as he went back and picked up his second clear of the Krug camp, Hana has nothing to do. His Raptors just went ahead and spawned. Hana not maximizing his farm in the early game has resulted in him slowing down, and that's going to mean Levi, now level 5, will tick over to level 6 first, should be able to finish off the Warrior as well. So these early game skirmishes, any sort of 2v2 or 3v3 should be heavily Gam favored.
And honestly, just Gam have done such a fantastic job of tracking the Gragas in this early game. Hana has not really been able to get anything done. You have to wonder if he had a bit more confidence to push in for that mid game.
They're going to go for this.
Rest, level 6. I don't think he wants to dash back into that Renekton. Very bold play. They're going to try to put him down, but he's just going to try to finish the kill. He's going to grab one. You can't go in on a Renekton like that.
Zeros didn't track that the stun was still up. I think he assumed as soon as Levi went in that the W had been used, and that would give him carte blanche to go back in and actually try to knock him down. But Akali not having 6 and Renekton holding that stun allows him to get that 1v2 kill.
And now Zeros gives up so much of the pressure he had in the lane. Hexdrinker finished off for rest, so his 1v1 is going to be so much easier up against Zeros. Big mistake to go for this fight, even though you know it is a 2 versus 1. The healing off of the Empowered 2 is just absurd.
It just feels like they needed to slow play it. If you kill a minion or two and he hits 6, maybe you can actually do this, but you for sure needed to wait until the W was used, and that really was the big mistake. If he is forced to use his abilities on the Lee Sin, as Levi is just training him down with the red buff, then you can go in as the Akali with your flash and finish him off.
And it feels to me like that's a mistake you should not be making. Renekton is, alongside Rumble, one of the legendary 2v1 top laners. You do not go up there when he has Rage, level 6, he's healing up, especially when you lack any burst damage, when the Sonic Wave Resonating Strike has already been used. It's going to make it so difficult for Akali, forced to go Seekers early instead of rushing for that Gunblade and having Sustain to help her through this lane phase.
Still going pretty well here for Gam. You can see both Kiaya and Levi leading the gold charts. Now, one thing I would like to draw attention to for J-Team is really smart vision control around the Infernal. There was a ward just over the wall of the pit on Gam's side of the jungle that just timed out that Koala had actually placed. And what that meant was that Levi, on this aggressive early jungle, was not able to look for an early Infernal solo. And had he started that one up, you see he places the control ward inside of the pit. So he actually wouldn't have spotted that at all and potentially could have been punished by a quick collapse from J-Team.
Now, Hana, though, going to start up the Infernal Drake, is spotted out.
His own control ward didn't spot the one there from Levi. He had no idea. He's like, oh, wait, now I have to leave. Now they can dive top lane. No ulti.
They want revenge. They've got the burst now to potentially finish off the Renekton. He dashes in the wave, gets all of his health back. There's no wave there anymore. They have to try to finish this one off, but still the Renekton's massive. The Hextrigger comes in, and this one's going to turn against him. The Renekton's still alive. Why are they doing this? Rest is outplaying every moment.
Why do they keep going top lane? This guy turns it around every single time, and on top of that, after showing with the Realm Orb, the Infernal Drake that Hana had stopped doing instantly goes over towards J-Team.
That's the problem with it. He's pre-ulting, and you're still actually looking for that dive. He's sitting on full rage with his ultimate up, and you give them the freedom to take that Infernal. This is just such a huge win for J-Team. And GAM just feel like they're so over-forcing on this top side. It feels a little bit desperate. They needed to kind of try to wait this out and maybe go on the next wave or wait until the ultimate expired.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much pressure on this team, you know, needing to win with only one win in this group to try and make it out of the group stage here. And throughout the regular season, it was always Levi plus Zeros playing towards the top side of the map, carrying the brunt of the damage in those later game team fights, and they keep throwing resources up here. Now that they're not working, I don't know how this team actually can respond.
Yes, as soon as he pre-ults, honestly, I just don't think you can really go for the dive. If anything, you want to try to look for a play where you start actually proxying the wave and you wait that next 30 seconds to then pull it off, but it's such a big time commitment. This just isn't the way to get it done.
It's just the wrong choice to be going top lane in the first place. Akali was solo winning that matchup. Maybe that changes on the first reset from Renekton, but Zeros was up in CS. And we talked so much about the Tristana Volibear in the bottom lane. We haven't seen Levi even attempt to move down there. They're just passively losing out on CS. Even though level 6s are coming through for this bottom, we know Volibear gets outskilled. We've seen it so much around the world. This champion just falls off ridiculously hard compared to another.
And it felt like Levi had outplayed Hana in the early game. Hat was able to track here, so see the flash out. Commit to the play anyway. Beautiful cast comes in from Hana, and right there, Kiaya is going to go down, donating the kill over to Fofo.
That's big for Fofo. He's already up quite a bit in farm, now going to be able to have a kill to his name here also. And Fofo should be getting very quickly towards his first completed item. J-Team just feel like they're winning in every lane.
Yeah, it's just better coordination there between jungle, mid lane, and support. Now Zeros on the roam down. Koala has flash, though.
Koala, I think, needs to flash out of this one. The Ignite now comes down. Koala looks like he's just willing to give up his life in this one. Does not want to use any other resources in the trade.
I think if you're just making the call to give up your life, then hold on to the ult too, right? There's not really any reason to try to have that extra second or two. I don't think it makes too much of a difference. But at the same time, it is a kill back here for GAM, so something working for them.
And they wanted to seize that window right there where Levi had finished his jungle item. Now Hana just got him himself. Now it's 3 members in the top lane. Can they do it?
Side, third time's the charm. 3 members is the charm. There's no way Renekton makes it out of this one. The Fury can't be enough. That's the shutdown. Gonna go right over to Levi.
A little sad. I would have liked to see that go to Zeros' Akali. You can't help but feel that would be much more valuable in the hands of that assassin later on. But look at the lead. Levi has 1,200 gold. He needs to use this now to convert into more. He's thinking about starting up the Herald, but with Koala moving his way up here, he gets forced out of the river.
It's a great lead from Levi, but despite the fact that Rest dies, he's still a good 800-900 gold actually ahead of his counterpart Zeros. So I completely agree with you. If you get that shutdown, you're almost back to parity, because I believe that was a 750 gold shutdown.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, and Rest isn't that far away from finishing off his Spear of Shojin. Once that comes through, how do you even play as Zeros? You're trying to dip in and out of the fog board, but every time you come out, there's a W stun ready for Renekton.
Flips him back, though. The Ouster Trouble already burned the ultimate, too. He's going to feel dumb after that one. Now has to walk out of it, but they're not going to be able to finish the kill. Kiaya, and now it's Slay caught in the middle of the team. Just one very sad, lonely bear knocked out of the fight in an instant.
Even without the ulti on Koala, the Aftershock is still there. He's able to survive for long enough. GAM trying to make the plays 2v2, but they didn't have vision of the enemy jungler, and that's what all goes around.
Those just don't have that much damage. The Ryze does not have a completed item. The Tristana does not have a completed item. They are just scraping by. It's really only topside where there's enough bits and pieces to potentially get a kill.
And Tristana wasn't even there. They've actually just moved the Tristana mid lane, so here's the play again. Looks pretty clever with the Hex Flash, knowing the ultimate is down. But as you said, the quick Aftershock proc there, and it's just not enough from Kiaya. As soon as Hana does show up, there's no one there to respond and try to make this a 3v3.
It's actually really unfortunate, because you think maybe if that's a Tristana as opposed to a Ryze who has big damage on the ultimate, maybe then you can try to finish it off or at least jump in and close the gap. But Ryze cannot do that, especially not without a flash here. So the game settles down again, and this is where it gets really worrying for GAM, because the last time these teams faced, it was all about the team fights. Well, J-Team have had the more successful early game. They also have really strong late game options with the Azir and the Kai'Sa, so everything seems to be going all according to plan for them.
Yeah, and you look at it, and it's just, last time they had the Kled, the Nocturne, the Kai'Sa, they had so many champions that would get into your backline, and it was just a matter of whether or not you could fight them, because they would get there. Volibear, on the other hand, very interruptible.
What you trying to say about Volibear here,
He's not actually that good at getting into the backline past 15 minutes, or when he has 0 items at 13 minutes and 20 seconds. So, yes, there's a theoretical world where GAM can just force over and over again, and eventually it'll work. That's what happened last time, but Might not be this time as the Hex Splash, not even enough confidence to go right in there. And you can see last time they met, it was Gam slowly but surely chunking away, building a lead.
I love the immediate Herald drop. They're going to be able to get plates here and cash in on that gold. Almost have the turret down also here because Fofo has gotten so much work done in this 1v1. He had already knocked down a couple plates. It's now down to a couple hundred HP, which is going to open up that mid lane. Fofo still has a completely full HP turret that he has the safety to retreat to.
Yeah, all J-Team have to do is keep walking around the map as a 4 or 5 man unit because the only real tangible advantage the Gam do have is in the jungle position. And let's be real, no matter how much more gold Levi has on a Lee Sin over a Gragas, he's still going to be less effective. It's so much harder to execute the Lee Sin in these later stage team fights, especially when you are looking down the barrel of all this self-peeling tools and tanky members that J-Team have put together.
I just feel like Gam have backed themselves up against a wall with this composition. I mean, just its execution is what it's going to come down to, but they've just put themselves at a disadvantage. They have to be the team to outplay in these fights to come out on top.
They really do, but that being said, yeah, I can get it this one.
That's a lot of CC, a good sidestep. Questionable body slam there. Now they might just look to turn. The TPs are coming in. The fight is raging back and forth, and they push the Akali back under. Zeros is desperately trying to escape. Levi trying to save the net. Zeros is still alive. Zeros has managed to make it out. No, the Renekton on the backside. Fofo grabbing yet another kill. Gam have overforced Levi. Doesn't look like he will pay the price, but a nice fight in the end for the side of JT.
Hey, Levi actually made it happen right there. Botched initial engage attempt, though, from Hana is ultimately what enables Gam to try and turn that one around, as well as Fofo's ultimate just pushing Zeros underneath the tower for all that bonus damage.
And despite the fact that so much has really been going well here for J-Teams, they're scaling really well, they're playing well. Gam isn't that far behind, right? They're only down 1K, so there is going to be possibilities for them if they really can pull off those proper engages, but Lil V showing off the early Q evolve. Anytime you have an early Q evolve and you get that isolated damage, as he has, you are going to shred through someone.
How crazy is Levi? Down 2 levels, but there's no ultimate on towards rest. Levi going up and just pushing the wave there. Should be in a response now from JT. Actually a dive down here. Zin very low HP, just over 50%.
And now we finally get to see the defensive capabilities of Bullbear as he can't ferocious forward to deny the headbutt pulverize. That's about all he can do, though.
I thought you were going to say the defensive capabilities as he was running away.
I was ready for that too.
Wow.
I thought the bear was supposed to run in.
He gets out so fast.
Heyo.
And Levi must be counting down on the ultimate. A lot of confidence to step up there. And this means that they are going to get some good damage down. Too late to get plates.
Right. Gam just want to keep finding these isolated, smaller skirmishes or pick tools because, remember, they do still have a lot of damage. They're lacking in frontline. They're lacking in reliable engage. That's why we think team fighting is a little bit more difficult for them. But if they find fights around, you know, a strong Kiaya plus Levi, Zeros 2 once he finishes off that Gunblade, should be a whole lot more powerful.
Shroom Shuffle goes in, pushes him right out of the Shroud. There's no chance for the Akali to escape. She's going to have to burn everything if she wants to get out. Zeros will go down.
And you're exactly right, Ender. That's why they keep going to top lane, because they're saying, all right, if we can get a Akali ahead, if we can start getting picks in side lanes, then J-Team gets spread. All of a sudden, Azir doesn't have members around them, is much more assailable. But nothing has worked in the top lane. Rest is so far ahead, has the Shojin, as well as the Hex Drinker, has gotten some Turret Blade Gold in the mid lane. And he is just really in a position of power with that rank 2 ultimate.
And that's the really hard thing for Gam, is even if they want to commit members towards a side lane, more often than not, right now we see Fofo down bottom side, but later once Baron spawns, it's going to be Rest down here. So he's going to be able to buy so much time that even if he does go down, the combination of Azir plus Kai'Sa can instantly delete that Baron buff. So Gam have to be very creative in how they do find these tools, and maybe hope that later on, if this game does drag out, which it feels like it's going to go a little bit later, the added range of Xin and the disengaged tools of the rocket jump, as well as that ulti, could give Xin the ability to outplay these fights.
There's always the possibility, but the engage on J-Team can be so explosive.
Yes.
It's really tough to react to the body slam flash, to the Q flash from Alistar. So it's going to be tough. But if they can execute on it, if Volibear can disrupt any of that engage with his roar,
keep laughing at him, Drake. He's going to prove you wrong.
He's one scary bear. We'll see.
I mean, he's got a support item. He's got some shoes on his feet. He's ready to go.
All right, I'm ready. I'll believe. I'll join you on this magical journey, gentlemen.
Wait. I'm not believing. I'm just saying it might happen.
There's a possibility, but for now, J-Team look to continue to extend their lead. They've already got double Drakes, 6 kills to 4. 1 tower to 1, looking to make it a second one, but still giving Zeros enough respect. Not really risking anything, and I think it makes sense. When you look at the scaling, it feels pretty easy for them to move later into the game. Zeros, though, a lot more confident in 1v1. The ult is still up. I feel like he should slow play this one, but is going to dash in anyway. The rest of the team is down here. The Volibear now going in. It is one scary bear using the ultimate, trying to finish this kill off. They dash in, but Rest is still alive. He gets the stun. He's still able to make it out of this one. They want to kill him so bad. Levi will get it, and that's the Rampage, but the Alistar goes down, trying to protect him.
Here comes Little
Kaisa
B!
comes in. Levi goes golden. It's a brief break before the fight continues now. The cast is knocked it back. The Volibear gets taken down. A messy fight on the top side.
And it turns into a 2-for-2 at the end of this. We saw the same thing happen in the game versus FPX earlier for GAM, where they find the good initial fight, but aren't able to escape from it at the end. So after spending so much to get those kills, it's just even at the end.
And partially that's because they commit so heavily to these long chases. And when you're chasing someone for 30, 40 seconds, it gives a lot of time for J-Team to walk across the map, to be there to respond, and try to pick up some of these counter kills.
I'll be real with you. I thought Rest could have turned that straight onto Zeros. He was running, waiting for his team to try and show up, but just 1 or 2 auto attacks away from finishing off that Akali. And because of J-Team winning the fight at the end, they should be able to pick up this tower.
Fofo, easy for him to knock that one down. And gentlemen, there is good news. Levi has gotten more money. This is a bit ambitious. He's just going to push him right into the Gragas. That is not the play that they were looking for, but Kiaya still alive. Stun on the way in. The heal has come out. Now they're trying to chase the target down. Volibear is here as well. Hex Flash over the wall. Going in, wants to finish the kill. Knocks the Gragas back. That's going to be one. Tristana has the reset. She needs to make it out to safety, but she gets knocked back under the tower. Leaps in instead. He sets his sight on Fofo, but no, Fofo gets it. The shield from the shifting sands barely keeping him alive.
It happens again to GAM, and J-Team are able to punish one more time, finding the big turnaround on both Kiaya and Xin, and they continue to push in other areas of the map too, so winning out more and more. And now Slay better be careful, because this could end up really badly if he gets caught out in the jungle.
Chasing down, breaking open the mid lane, but I mean, this is kind of exactly what you expect when you talk about a GAM game, this back and forth trade. And really, once again, gotta give praise to Fofo. Such a close exchange there between him and Xin.
Wow, Levi has a lot of kills, a lot of gold. He's actually building 3 different items at once right now, so he doesn't have as much power as you would expect for someone that has that much gold in his pocket. It looks like he's going towards the GA, but also a Black Cleaver. He stopped for the Hex Drinker, so it's a little bit of a garage sale going on right now, and he's going to have to wait a couple minutes until he completes some of these items before you really get the most out of that gold he's picked up.
Certainly a little confused at the moment. We're going to see this one more time. It is a really good turn on towards Kiaya, but he does so much damage. Forces the flash to come through from Fofo, but this is where the collapse comes in as well, because Slay is able to find this initial kill on Cortana, but Koala with the flash forward, Little V as well. I mean, Xin gets punted underneath the tower, just barely misses out on the kill himself. It was just over-ambitious from GAM, but it feels like that is what has to happen, because once again, they have a composition that relies on finding these skirmishes over and over, so they're going to keep doing it.
And that's kind of just their style, right? They haven't really shown us the ability, when you think back over the years, to just kind of play this calm, slow, side lane style game. They overwhelm their opponents through constant aggression. They depend on their individual mechanics to make these outplays and snowball a game. It's almost always a GAM win through kills, not through objectives.
They're going to need a lot more kills as they do want to find that win as the Cloud Drake goes down. Double Cloud and a steadily growing gold lead for the side of J-Team. No major objectives yet, though. And we've seen, despite the deficit, GAM still very, very willing to force. See if J-Team can continue to match the breakneck pace. Last game, they played against each other. That was not the case. See if Fofo can stay alive, the Kaisa can stay alive in these long, kind of drawn-out exchanges.
Well, the question becomes, where can GAM actually play around? Because bottom lane, the difference is massive. You know, 60 CS between the two. Little V now with 3 full items. Xin just barely trying to put the Zeal together into a second.
It's a 3,500 gold
Hex
lead
Flash
on
Bear.
Lil V over Xin, and that is just enormous.
Hex
We'll see if
Flash
they can
Bear,
make it
they're going to
happen.
go in, they kick him back, he can't do anything! That's the Death Brush. GAM still able to find the kill. Grag is fishing for the disengage. The rest of the team on the way in, but he's going to get taken down, and the bear has finally found purpose in the game, and it is to absolutely eat this Gragas.
GAM need to turn this into a Baron, I almost feel like. If the game is slowly slipping away from you, so they must force on towards this objective. It's a 5 versus 3 for at least 25 seconds until Fofo can teleport in. They have to be able to zone. No, there's no smite on the other side. They can go for this fight.
3v5. The Baron pit is there. Zero's coming over the wall, fishing for the flank. Needs to find purchase in this fight. They need to get this one down. They have to threaten the Baron, or J-Team don't have an incentive to step forward. Zeros This is Rest on the bottom side of the map, but now the Renekton's in the pit. He's on the backside. He's going to dash right back out. It's slow and it's steady, but members are going to start to respawn. Fofo getting closer and closer. TP up and available. Can move into
TP flank.
3K getting lower and lower. Eyes on the Baron. They're going to leap in anyway. Zin goes in, but the Alistair goes in. The follow-up is there, and Rest has taken out the AD carry. Fofo pushes them all back into the pit. He says, you want it. You got it. It's a clean sweep coming out from the side of J-Team. They have just murdered Gam's dreams.
They got the clean ace, they got the Baron, and you've got to say they have this game. J-Team with so much patience, waiting for Fofo to respond, just buying time, trying to draw Gam off of the Baron so that they wouldn't be able to just focus it down and finish it.
Gam just kept looking when to find the turn, when they could actually make that play happen. They don't have the engage tools. It's so hard to turn off of that objective. You have to look for the percentage. It just wasn't possible.
We see this play, and this is kind of the dream scenario, right? They're finally able to find this pick. Everyone gets to push their buttons and feel good about these 2 kills. But sadly, from this point on, it does start to go downhill.
I mean, it was a great play, and it's a great attempt. They were already down quite a bit of gold, potentially getting outscaled here. So Gam has to make a play to win the game instead of just to try to hold on. And I think this was the right move to make. But you can see, Kiaya, Zin kind of getting zoned off the Baron constantly as Lil V while moving forward.
Yeah, they lose a lot of DPS right there where they could have bursted down and then maybe set themselves up for a better turn. But instead, they're trying to burst down the objective while also trying to team fight. That numbers advantage all of a sudden means nothing because of how low Levi was at the start of that team fight because Zin was bursted just immediately.
And it was just great positioning and great presence of mind to know that you don't have to just rush it in. How quickly the Baron is dying, how much time until Fofo is up. They calculated it all perfectly.
And 81 damage.
And this is of course the damage from just the Baron fight, but the patience was fantastic from the side of J-Team. They only committed to the pit when they saw the Baron was actually potentially going to drop.
I mean, you guys were making fun of Volibear scaling. He can do just as much as late game Tristana. I mean, it seems really good to me.
Don't do him like that. That's...
I mean, they have to recall. Tristana's still mid lane. Ryze is top lane. They're just going for the base right now.
They're just going to end the game. This is a perfect setup for Azir. The sieging, it's going to be easy for him to continue to poke down. Maybe one final fight for the side of Gam. J-Team running out of minions, wave behind them.
Again, though, how do Gam force the fight? Like, they got a realm warp, maybe put the Volibear in the back line. This is what we've been waiting for.
Time for an 80 damage Volibear to make his name in the competitive scene. Okay, Slave does not have that cooldown, and they are just slowly getting chipped away.
You gotta do something.
It's the last chance for the Gigabyte Marines. They have to find a fight now. The Gragas has pushed them away from the base. The Renekton clearing the waves in the meantime, but no one wants to go in. The Gragas cooldown being down does give Gam a slight advantage in the fight to come. Still going up against a monumental gold lead and a Baron buff and BM from Rest. Remember, Gam go out here if they lose. Everything is on the line in this final fight. Continue in. Volibear fishing.
He's still doing it!
Scared. They're just BMing. They're just pulling him back with the Renekton fight. Just gonna cut down. No, he cuts through the Volibear instantly, and they're setting their sights instead of the Nexus. They don't care about the kills. They want the win. They want their way out of groups. J-Team are going to knock Gam out of the tournament.
J-Team playing a really strong, stable game. And you have to say, Rest really showing up for them, being able to handle so many of these 1v2, 1v3 situations. And once he got that advantage on the top side, it felt like Gam didn't have any other opportunities, any other ways that they wanted to play. They were just so dedicated to putting their Akali ahead, and Rest shut them down completely.
Yeah, they kept doing it. He kept punishing it. And the later we got into the game, the better J-Team worked as a team to punish the aggressiveness of Gam Esports. They were able to continually find, the turnaround fights after Gam find that initial kill, and it all culminated in that Baron where once again it was a 4v5, but J-Team played it perfectly.
They deserve so much credit, honestly, for that Baron. Even a 3v5, both Fofo and their jungler was dead. They managed it perfectly. They timed out the death timers. They were not over-aggressive, and felt like J-Team really did show up in this game.
Absolutely did. And for Gam, you have to feel for them, because it felt to us, at least watching, like they had to go for that Baron. That was the only way for Gam really to get back into the game, but their back was already against the wall, and it really only got harder from there, and that was the final nail in the coffin for Gam's run. And it's a shame, seeing low-key drop out, now seeing Gam drop out, the VCS leaving the tournament. Of course, they will still get to play a few games today. They can, I like to call it the Dream Crush bracket. They're just here to ruin other people's
To style
days.
on kids, Dracos.
Exactly. Potentially Splice's day, so we'll see.
And sometimes once you're out of the tournament, the pressure's off and they can really relax and sometimes perform better.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if they just take the gloves off, if they go all out, because it felt to me like this game was pretty all out, and it didn't
for Levi,
super
for
work.
Sure. Levi was so ahead in this game, and for me, it was really exciting to finally get to see him play, at a peak level, but they just couldn't convert it into anything else.
And I just think a problem we've seen in all their losses is not enough hard engage, not enough ways to actually start fights, because they play these compositions that need to skirmish, that need to fight, and in the VCS, teams will always opt into it and go blow for blow and take those fights, but a lot of these teams at Worlds are becoming more patient and are just sitting back and absorbing the aggression from Gam and getting leads.
Or in the case of Rest in the top lane, just absorbing all that aggression and outplaying anyway. But MasterCard is making sure to spotlight the best fans eSport has to offer. Now, today's MasterCard fans of the day are Marius, Lars, Johannes, Neem, and Hauk. I mispronounced your name and I apologize for that. They've been playing League together for 2 years. Despite living in separate countries, they received World Scarves and Red Plush Minions. So excited for them. But of course, when we return, Splice returns to the Rift as they face Fun plus Phoenix in an absolute banger of a match. You shall receive Azeo. I don't think he wants to dash back into that Renekton. Very bold play. They're going to try to put him down, but he's just going to try to finish the kill. He's going to grab one. They've got the burst now to potentially finish off the Renekton. He dashes in the wave, gets all of his health back. There's no wave there anymore. They have to try to finish this one off, but still the Renekton's magic. The Hexagon comes in, and this one's going to turn against them. The TPs are coming in. The fight is raging back and forth. They push the Akali back under. Zeros is desperately trying to escape. Levi trying to save the day. Zeros is still alive. Zeros has managed to make it out. Wants to finish the kill. Knocks the Gragas back. That's going to be one. Tristana has the reset. She needs to make it out to safety, but she gets knocked back under the tower. Leaps in instead. He sets his sight on Fomo, but no, Fomo gets it. But the Alistair goes in. The follow-up is there, and Rest is taking out the Fofo pushes them all back into the pit. He says, you want it. You got it. It's a clean sweep. They don't care about the kills. They want the win. They want their way out of groups. J-Team are going to knock Gam out of the tournament.
Safe and safe discount.
Yep. Using the app, driving safe.
You wanna go? You wanna go, bro?
Hey, do not mess with my discount. You can save up to 30%.
Let's go!
Nice to meet you. Go get him, Tiger.
Sounds like you've got this.
Yeah, definitely.
Get a discount up to 30% with Drive Safe and Save from State Farm.
De par en par. ¿Lo he dicho bien?
Figura. ¿Abrimos la cámara ya? Eric, nos gustaría llegar a la cámara de una pizza. ¿Qué tienes?
Cielo, llevaba mucho esperando que dijeses algo así. Prepárate para el proyecto Peras.
Maravilloso. No cambies nunca. Condúcete. Yo necesito las manos libres. Vamos a pinchar algo de música. A ver qué tiene él por aquí. Clásico. ¡Nos quedamos sin carretera!
Y por los aliviaderos.
Os escondéis en las alcantarillas. Sabía que erais basura. Y me alegro de que por fin vayáis a descansar.
Puedo despejar el camino, pero antes tenemos que quitarnos de encima a estos imbéciles. Sin que cerca, despejaré el camino. Todo despejado. ¡Vamos! ¡La estación de tren está delante!
Welcome back, everyone. Laure here. J Team stay in second place contention here with the win versus GAM Esports. I'm standing here with Fofo. Thank you very much for joining me. I want to ask you about the mental state. Having to play 2 games back to back, given that you lost the first one, what did your coach tell you to just reset the mental state, given that you had such a little amount of time between the games?
首先，我想问一下关于进到这场比赛的一个心态，因为你们是连续要打2场的，你们的教练有没有跟你们讲说要怎么样去重置或去调整自己的心态？
那个时候输了第1场之后，教练说没有关系，下一场一定要赢，然后叫我们不要太紧张，因为本来我们就没有预期我们会打得特别好，就是尽全力，不要后悔就好了。
So after the first game, our coach told us to don't be so nervous. After the loss, he told us not to be so nervous because really we weren't expected to do so well anyway. Just try your best and give it your all.
Well, it worked here. Congratulations on the win. You have a little more time now to rest because you're only going to play the last game of the day against Fun Plus Phoenix, and they have a revenge to take on you. So, what makes you ready against Fun Plus Phoenix this time?
就是对上 FPX 的话，因为你们上一次是击败了他们这样子，那今天最后一场你们也是打 FPX， 请问一下你们要你怎么样说服观众，就是你已经准备好迎接他们了？
其实我还蛮期待跟他们交手的，因为他们真的非常强，每次跟他们打我都觉得受益良多，但是这一次可能会输啦，对，尽力打。
I'm really looking forward to playing them. Every time we play against them, we always learn a lot. They're so powerful. Unfortunately, this time, I feel like we might lose. So all I'm saying is that we should just try our best.
You say you might lose. Are you still confident? And tell me about the preparation, especially against Doinby, because he doesn't have a champion pool. He has a champion ocean.
你可以跟我们讲一下，就是你目前对上他们还有多少自信心吗？特别是对上多恩比，因为他不只是有个角色池，他是有个角色海。
我只能说他是角色还没错，但是我也是，所以我并不怕他，我会全力以赴，然后去学习更多的东西。
He might have the champion ocean, but I have one as well. I'm not afraid of him. I'm going to try it, everything that I've got, and try to learn from him as well.
Oh, well, I wish you good luck on this one. Thank you very much for the interview. Thank you, Clement, for the translation. Now back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Loa. Well, I'm already looking forward to that Fofo versus Doinby matchup later in the day. For now, though, as I welcome you back to the State Farm Analyst Desk, we are going to hone in rather on Game 4 of the day, which is Splice versus Fun plus Phoenix. A tall order, however, last time these two teams met, it was very competitive at some points in the game.
Yeah, I mean, this was the composition where we saw the Vigar bot lane from Splice along with the Tristana mid, and it was a lot of trying to mitigate and control FPX in the early game. And while they couldn't completely control them, they were matching them pace for pace.
Yeah, and it was about beating FPX to the punch on what you want it to be able to do, right? And I think Cersei is going to be key in being able to do that. This is a guy that does have the ability to run over an early game, and I feel like you have to respect the power of the picks like the Gragas coming into this matchup.
I think so as well, and I think we heralded the preparation for Splice in that matchup, not as much the execution in the game. And in that light, I want to look at the first game they played here today versus J-Team, because that was much better coming out of Splice and something we want to see.
Yeah, so if we just see Cersei being able to perform just as well with, Humanoid, I think that's going to be really tough for FPX to deal with, because Humanoid came out with an incredible Cassiopeia game.
And I think the fact that their composition did Baron so quickly gave them actually a really simple objective in the mid game. Win one fight, go to Baron, and then be able to siege down onto these structures. I think that I would like to see a similar comp that has kind of a one-mindedness about how they want to be able to play it.
Yeah, I feel that you two have summarized Splice pretty much exactly what we wanted to see from them today. Good mid-jungle synergy with Humanoid performing at a level that we expect, and a composition that is ultimately much easier to execute, and I feel like we saw that perfectly in their matchup against J-Team. While there was not a perfect execution from the side of Splice, you have to still be very positive of what we did see.
And in that one, I do want to ask you the question immediately. We saw the Kai'Sa coming out for Kabi, right? And something that everyone's very comfortable on in FPX, and this goes back to the discussion we had at the beginning of the day, when do you play these mages and when don't you? We saw that Veigar pick. Where do you think things are going to go for Splice's bot lane this time?
I think they should go towards the Xayah and Kai'Sa. I think for Kabe, he's been a very reliable AD carry front to back, and ultimately my major question is does he have the space in team fights being provided from the front line? And if I just looked at the last game, Vizicachi actually had, echoing the point, best game I felt of the tournament for himself. So I want to be able to see him be as connected as he was with the map as he was in game 1, and Kabe should be able to thrive.
And this time around, you are on the blue side, which opens up the flexibility in the bans. You don't have to ban away things like Kiana as well as the Pantheon. So I feel like if you don't want to play against the Kai'Sa, you can just ban it, take the better AD carry for you in Xayah this time around, and it should give you more flexibility in that draft.
I thought you were going to talk, and I was going to let you in. Go ahead.
So I think what's important to recognize is they are still going up against FPX.
Yeah.
And I'm still have question marks around this team because we've only seen them perform well against GAM. They've beaten the same team twice. And while I think that Tian is steadily getting better, the person in the jungle is Cersei, who's going up against, who I think so far has had a fantastic tournament. The big advantage I give to FPX is their man in the bot lane for Crisp. I think that the difference between the supports is massive, and I think the impact that Crisp is having alongside his jungle and mid is huge.
As we take a look at an FPX versus GAM game of today, and also how they beat GAM the first time, what do you think to that statement of Veri is that, hey, we don't know that much about FPX, they only were able to beat this team, Raz?
Yeah, what we do know, to the point about Chris, incredibly reliable. Being able to find himself topside 2 times to defend those dives, and by the 14-minute mark, they were at a 9-4 turret plating against the Marines, who just dove topside consistently.
But that's the Marines twice. What
that
about
is
the
true.
other team?
So what I expect going up against Splice is just, mid lane jungle, gonna perform incredibly, much better. And these team fights are what we should be looking towards. Doinby in interviews coming into the event, or at least even coming to today, said that they are the most coordinated team in the tournament. They have that faith in themselves. Team fights are their go-to. So if you see team fights like these, you have a lot of faith in them.
And I think that we're not going to see a lane seeded through something like a Kayle. I think you expect Doinby to step up in that matchup, try and play something that will match the push and give TN a lane to play through, because so much of JT's inefficiencies in that game was the fact that they were losing the push in all 3 waves.
And ultimately, I think it's all going to come down to the junglers. Tian versus Cersei, we've already been talking a lot about them so far in this pre-match, but they are so important to the success of their team. Tian enabling his mid laner in Duanbi and how he's able to impact the rest of the map, whereas Xerxes netting all of the early game advantages for Spike.
And if that's the case, I have to give, I already was going to be tipping FPX in this one, but being on red side, having the last pick for Duanbi here so they can have an edge in the 2v2, that's my focus. It will help Tian a whole lot to get their plans going forward.
And you said earlier in the show, for you, he's the best jungler in the tournament,
Yes.
so surely this couldn't be an issue.
Yes, not going to be an issue at all. I think going up against the Marines, he was topside when he needed to be, and it's going to be continuing on.
And let's get realistic. This is at minimum a 2v1 because he's going to pull Crisp into the play. If not a 3v1 if they have shoved through mid lane. So if this is going to be the featured matchup, and we do think it is on Xerxes to be able to win it, he has to do so against so many different members.
Picks and bans are about to be underway. If FPX win here, they are guaranteed the next round. Let's send it over to the casters to get this LPL versus LEC clash underway.
Thank you very much, Shocks. I'm Medic, joined by Frosk and Jat, and as you said, we are right on into picks and bans. Splice on the blue side get rid of Renekton and Ryze, whereas Pantheon and Gragas are the first two bans from Fun Plus Feelings.
And as we kind of storm into this draft phase, I really want to echo what Spawn just brought up on the analyst desk, which is this time around, Splice are on the blue side. And there we go, they've already banned it. I wanted people to take note of this as Splice continue through the tournament. They banned Kayle on both blue side and red side because their biggest priority picks are the Xayah and the Syndra. With Xayah left open, I expect this is going to be the go-to unless they want to try to play some mage flex and secure that Syndra.
But I also do wonder whether or not it would be worth it to take the Kai'Sa away, only because of how valuable it was for LWX and Doinby during the regular season. Kai'Sa, I believe, was 10-0 for LWX. I do believe the Xayah is the correct first pick, though, just because of what we've seen so far this tournament.
And it will be locked in for Splice. Last time they played, Kobe was playing the Veigar in the bottom lane. That was the flex that they brought out on the red side. Here, as we said, FPX have the ability to react.
Yeah, and I think in the first game that these two teams played against each other, Splice showed how well they can play around bottom lane. And actually, I think it was the fact that Kobe wasn't on an AD carry that contributed to Splice not being able to win that game off of the kills they were able to create bottom.
And part of that was because of how well FPX read Splice's draft. If you look at their previous draft, they did things like banning out Xerxes, banning out the Nautilus from Norscaron, banning away the Xayah from Kabe. This time around, second rotation, immediately. Those are champions that you very much associate with Chachi and Norscaron. FPX have done their homework, and they are denying all of the power comfort tools that Splice want to find.
But Chachi has a little bit of comfort still left in his back pocket. The Cho'Gath top lane is something we have seen him already play at Worlds 2019. Rakan is locked in for the Lovers Duo bot, and there's the Kai'Sa you were talking about, Jet.
Yeah, I think if it wasn't taken right now by FPX, then it would have been banned phase 2 by Splice. But even though we don't see other teams picking the Cho'Gath, this isn't that surprising for Splice to do it in this situation.
And now I expect FPX to start putting the squeeze on Xerxes. You can already see that they're going to get first pick out of red side. They can probably grab a jungle, so they're effectively going to take away 3 pivotal jungle picks. I didn't expect the Nocturne. I do expect a Gragas. Xerxes then still has his Karthus and his Olaf left available to him.
Gragas has already been removed by FPX. Splice here looking to see where they want to put their bans. Could try and hamper Doinby just a little bit. Rumble is the pick for them. And we'll see if FPX once again go towards those jungle bans you were talking about for us.
There's also the emphasis on trying to take away AD junglers if they want to pinch there, simply because it is an AP-oriented top laner if Xerxes is going to play around Chachi and mix the damage profile up there. But there's the Olaf. I think it's so important that Tian gets the stronger jungle matchup against Splice, because you know Xerxes is the X factor for this team that can unlock the map, so you want to make sure that you can keep him down if you're FPX.
So what's the jungle power pick they have left? Because I'm expecting FPX to throw it in here, and it's Lee Sin. I was just trying to go through all of the tier list of junglers. Like, surely they have something ready the first pick, then they can last pick the counter pick for Duanbi.
Which means that Xerxes could go towards something like the Rek'Sai. She would certainly fit, and again, trying to find A, an answer into a Lee Sin, and B, offer him a lot of that speed and that control through the jungle. But he also has things like the Jarvan if they want to go more teamfight centric.
Well, the Rek'Sai is going to be locked in alongside Humanoid's Akali in the mid lane. Now FPX have their final pick. It's a counter pick for mid, we expect. But of course, Duanbi could take the Gangplank into the mid lane.
He could take whatever he wants into the mid lane at this point. As you mentioned, there are actually already 2 champions that it could be, but in this case, we're pretty sure it would be the Galio going mid.
Could be Nautilus.
It definitely could be. He was a big Nautilus mid player throughout the summer split. He actually played it 6 times, but it has been slightly nerfed since then, and the recent power buffs to Galio make it so he can get decent shove against the Akali and then roam bottom, which is what FPX want to do.
Yeah, absolutely, Ja. And on top of that, it's also just really difficult for the Akali to A, have kill pressure on Galio, and the Shroud doesn't mean as much because of the taunt. So yeah, you don't have the possibility to flash taunt anymore on the Galio, but you can still be super obnoxious, walk into the middle of that Shroud, and make sure that you find her.
No kill pressure for Humanoid in the mid lane. Xerxes on a jungler who can have a lot of impact early game. We'll see if once again they decide to play around the bottom lane like they did the last time these two teams met. FPX have a lot of teamfight tools, have a lot of AoE, and have Tian on an strong early game jungler.
Yeah, and we're also going to get to see if FPX is really in gear like a lot of us expected them here, because they have another draft that really does suit their style.
FPX and Splyce fighting for their qualification to the quarterfinals.
Fascinante. Esta cámara está vinculada a una segunda cámara mediante un conducto de energía ancestral. Esas coordenadas parecen llevar a... ¡Eclipse! Bien hecho, busca cámaras. Ya tenemos nuestro próximo destino. Reúnete con Maya y su escumillita aprendiz y volved a la nave.
Parece muy rompido. Déjame ver qué hay en tu interior.
The crowd here in the Verti Music Hall in Berlin showing their support for Splyce. If Splyce win this, they guarantee themselves at least a tiebreaker in the qualification for quarterfinals. FPX would guarantee themselves a spot in the quarterfinals, although not guaranteed that first position.
Yeah, and we need to see if anything happens at level 1, because we saw Splyce's win over J-Team earlier today, where actually Vizicachi managed to hand Xerxes first blood on a silver platter. From the looks of it, it is very defensive from both teams. It's not like the teams wouldn't have tools to go in. FPX could have done a Nautilus invade, and Splyce could have tried to do something with Cho'Gath, who has a very powerful level 1.
And checking kind of what we expect the initial jungle rotations for these guys to be, you already talked about this in Draft Medic, that Tian on this Lee Sin, the early game jungler, is the acting bridge for what is very clearly a team fight composition from FPX. They want to be in that 5v5, so all eyes are on him and what lanes he can attack. Now that said, he does have great setup in both his bot and his mid lane, and there's that delayed invade you were alluding to, Jad.
It looks like FPX might be going to try and steal away this red buff. 4 members strong, Splyce, unaware that it's happening. Question mark pings do come out.
He's unburrowed as well.
He's already unburrowed.
Oh, Doinby has the cutoff too.
Doinby has the cutoff. Xerxes still has his flash. Doinby looking for the taunt, won't land it, but Xerxes has had to burn that flash early on.
And that was a very big chance as they get the hook onto Norskeren. Persistent crowd we have.
Yes.
That was one of the longest chants that I've seen. I mean, in the LPL, they have chant leaders.
As super dangerous for Humanoid. He's just been flashed on by Doinby. Tian going in as well, but the flash away from Humanoid.
Yeah, that's just going to be very greedy by Humanoid, trying to see if he can get that wave shoved in. Didn't respect the fact that he had eyes on Tian, walking into that jungle, rocking up into his lane with the red buff, and that's now 2 flashes gone, and Xerxes and Humanoid right out the gate.
I wonder, though, because it is mid lane burning flash, and technically Galio would be a little bit vulnerable. He's so tanky early, it's probably okay, but I think that just kind of goes to show the type of player that Doinby is, that he's willing to trade flashes that early.
And you can see kind of the impact of this initial invade across the map, particularly in that bot lane. Without red, there's not a lot of reason for Xerxes to be down there. He was chased and forced up into the top side of his jungle, which means that LWX and Chris now get to go fully on the aggressive, getting these health advantages over Kabe and Norskeren.
And they were having this discussion on the analyst desk saying they think the key matchup is Tian versus Xerxes. Xerxes has been one of the key carries for Splyce throughout the course of the split and throughout the course of this tournament, and he's been set behind early on here by Fun Plus Phoenix.
Yeah, and you can see that FPX had the same idea as all of us did in terms of getting that to happen. I think the bigger thing is actually whether or not FPX can protect their lanes, because they actually have had their either top lane or bot lane crash fairly often so far this tournament.
I'm actually really curious what happened there with Xerxes canceling his back. Now, he does go back. He should be heading towards his Krug camp, and why I think this is important is because of the timing, not only on taking the Krugs, but on possibly finding a gank bot lane. LWX and Crisp are both pushed very far forward. FPX should expect the Krug camp is what he's going to go for.
They're going to collide here. How many cooldowns is Tian going to use? He's actually used his Q and W already.
Xerxes trying to get in there. Norscarin and Kobe on the way as well. Tian does still have his flash. Xerxes going to land the unbow. Here comes Kobe as well. And Tian rooted up with the Blade Caller. Norscarin standing off towards the other side of this.
Ooh.
Chris flashing forward. Jump in by Norscarin. Heals up his AD carry for the moment. The Ignite is ticking. But FPX will just be able to escort their jungler out.
Quite a strange interaction there where Tian really knew he had a lot of backup coming, but since he was down, cooldowns needed to be very patient. The most surprising thing to me was actually the fact that Crisp flashed and ignited when it felt mainly like he was there for defense.
Yeah, a little bit of a misread it feels like there, but now in the mid lane.
Galio.
Gonna jump away, but the Justice Pump is blocked. Doinby still lands the taunt. Xerxes could look to try and shroud the
He's just going to walk it out.
Yeah, just walks away. Xerxes, no flash on Humanoid, no way to chase that Galio.
Oh, Galio. Aftershock, waits that out, then gets the damage reduction from his taunt. So is really just reducing any potential burst from both Splice people and just walks slowly towards his jungle. Really well played.
But look at the confidence. Doinby then immediately just teleports back into the mid lane. Xerxes could actually just walk around and look for another repeat gank here.
Gimgoon's going to teleport up towards top. This wave is pushing in towards Chachi, who's yet to have a chance to go back. Tian perhaps could look for a gank. He's going to spot out Xerxes, who is on his wolves, and just trying to steal away as much of this jungle as possible early on.
Yeah, and just track Xerxes as much as possible. Tian has been in his face, in his jungle, clashing on Krog Camp, now stealing away Grom. And again, if you control Xerxes, you control Splice. He is completely taking all of the team out of their early game.
Chachi's looking to back.
Doinby's also rotating.
Yeah, they would like to try and three-man dive here, and the level 3 X side wouldn't be able to put too much of a hamper on it. It's probably enough to pull them off the dive, though.
And Xerxes in the right place just to make Fun plus Phoenix doubt themselves on that top lane dive.
Yeah, I think overall, even though FPX is trying to apply a lot of pressure, yes, the Rek'Sai is behind, but the bottom lane for Splice is doing just fine. The fact that Crisp used his Flash and Ignite during one of Tian's jungle invades has allowed Kalbi and Norscarin to kind of shove in this bottom lane. And if you're Splice and you say, all right, 6 minutes into the game, Kalbi's going to have the highest farm on our team, you're probably taking that.
Kind of feels like Splice have at least weathered the storm of losing a lot of those flashes. Now, the guy that can throw a wrench into that is, of course, Doinby there. You can see that even pre-level 6, he's already trying to see if he can cheat down there, get some sort of roam off. Obviously, that's going to unlock and get even worse as soon as he does have access to the Galio ultimate. And that's kind of the staple play from Fun plus Phoenix. They love to unlock their mid laner and then have his impact felt all across the map.
Especially when you have the Gangplank who can interact with the Cannon Barrage as well. Now, Chachi is looking for the kill here. Cannon Barrage comes down from Gingoon. He's going to eat some oranges, and he's K to walk out of that one, but Chachi was very close to bursting out the Gangplank.
Yeah, Cho'Gath does have very strong dueling at level 6. That was maybe one auto attack away, but Gimgoon, a very experienced Gangplank, timed his oranges as best as he could to end up just trading ultimates with the Cho'Gath.
Start to see Norscarin roaming away from his bottom lane. That wave is just in the middle of the lane, so he's not going to lose too much from this. But Xerxes still only level 4, is getting up towards that level 5. Has been set behind, and because of that, Tian is able just to take away this this Ocean Dragon without Splice really being able to react.
Yeah, one of the nice things about Lee Sin is his ability to do dragons pretty much solo as soon as he's level 5. So they've been up in Xerxes' face. They had the timer on the red buff, and it was a pretty easy planned play for FPX to force the dragon when you knew that Xerxes was going to be dealing with his buff.
You can see the difference between the two junglers, about 17 to 20 farm, depending on who has done their most recent camp. Crisp now roaming around. Vedius was talking about how powerful this support can be for FPX. Well, we already see him trying to team up with Doinby and Tian in this mid lane.
And we're just kind of waiting now for FPX to try and make their first strike. Galio can basically try to get the roam to top or bottom lane. It just depends where FPX is looking to spend their gold. Traditionally, it would be down to LWX to try and get him fed, but with the GP actually being a little bit pushed in by this Cho'Gath, there's a good argument to be made that he should send it there. So Splice is just doing their best to try and ward the river and just be around in case Galio tries to ult, because if Splice turn it, then they can actually run away with either one of those lanes.
Yeah, and with the early Ocean down and Rift Herald not spawned yet, it's pretty much fair for both teams to kind of go a little bit quiet right now as we're waiting for either other big cooldowns or other big timers to actually force anyone's hand. Both teams, as Jad is saying, are pretty confident to just continue to farm, so you should see the junglers either just shadowing underneath their pushed forward lanes to offer them some form of protection, and then waiting for things like the GP ultimate to be back and available.
GimGoom does have flash. Xerxes is just standing by Chachi's side here. Chachi has the ultimate. Could look for a feast on that gangplank, but GimGoom's playing very safe.
And again, it's mostly protecting Chachi while he's this far forward. Obviously, if you find the rupture, you flash chomp someone, then yeah, you look for the kill, but GimGoom should just let the wave push into him.
And this is more what FPX is used to doing, leaving GimGoon on an island.
Flash away, but the flash chase is there. The chomp coming down. GimGoon is down. First blood to Splice.
Big play there. Nicely done by Splice going flash for flash. It all leads off of Chachi's ability to land that rupture, though. It's what made it inescapable. FPX, though, looking to move fast. And I think Splice has done their homework quite well. Humanoid was roamed down already to try and match.
Noskaran there waiting to use the battle dance so he can get away. As you say, Humanoid was on his way down here. They do know Tian is coming down towards the bottom lane, but early doors, Splice have been able to match this aggression out of Fun plus Phoenix.
Yeah, and just as Jat was just talking about, the fact that Humanoid beat Doinby to the punch, was shadowing underneath him as Doinby was looking for the roam. That said, they still have priority with this mid lane, and Doinby is going to force these roams.
Yeah, and FPX is really trying to get bot side control, considering they have basically abandoned GimGoom up on the top lane, but they haven't been able to do so, which is a fairly big and meaningful win for Splice. Remember, Splice did win the early game in the first matchup between these two, and they're looking to do it again.
Splice have set up a trap here. Crisp and Tian now realize that Noskaran's on the way. Crisp flashes out, and the chase does not continue, but Splice there understanding what FPX wanted to do.
I mean, it's pretty nuts that both teams seem to have a perfect read on what the other one wants to do, and it really is who's getting first to the punch, but you can very clearly see that everyone is putting so many resources and so much attention into tracking each other, trying to set trap upon trap.
And as we get just over the 10-minute mark, is about 1,000 gold lead here for Splice. They have 10 CS lead in the bottom lane, about 20 in the mid lane, so their solo laners farming up very well. Although Xerxes was put behind, he's only 200 gold behind, where you see there's a 300 gold lead in the mid lane and almost 1,000 in top.
Yeah, and I think Humanoid and Mizuchachi are having a very good day. The game one where Humanoid had such an influence on both side lanes and team fights with his Cassiopeia, again here, having to blind pick his Akali into whatever Doinby wanted to play against him. And sure, he hasn't gotten a kill, but he's kept enough pressure and followed closely enough that Galio hasn't been able to get any roams. And then you also have the farm advantage, which is credit to Humanoid.
And the nice thing about the itemization, since he is facing a Galio, is that Humanoid didn't have to kind of right-turn spec into the Seeker's Arm Guard. He's able to just immediately rush for that Gunblade, so he's going to get it that much earlier. And Gunblade, obviously the big power spike for Akali, because it gives her kill pressure over virtually anyone on the map.
Xerxes here has been spotted out once again. You talked about it, Foss. The ability to track the enemy jungler is paramount here. Now Xerxes is going to step in. He realizes Tian's there. Chachi's gone forward onto GimGoom. The cannon barrage coming down. The silence will be used with that feral screen, but Chachi has to flash away. The chase still on here, perhaps for FPX if they want. They decide not to dive the tower.
The layering of CC from Splice there to make sure that Xerxes hit the knock-up on Lee Sin and that Chachi found the silence was so crucial, because Tian was looking for the angle to get the Dragon Rage kick and kick Cho'Gath away back towards GimGoon. It saved Chachi's life.
Chachi did have to burn his flash though, so perhaps a repeat gank could come out. Tian is taking away the Rift Herald. It will be the second neutral objective for FPX in this early game.
And you can see, even though the CS is in the advantage of Humanoid, Doinby's using that to move around the map. They will get this Rift Herald, and it'll be a question of whether or not Splice want to try and fight them in the river. Giving up mid priority for that Rift Herald could be relatively costly. If Doinby's actually going to recall, the chance he loses a good number more CS.
And so far, it feels like this game have been the junglers just making eye contact, tracking each other around, but it is Tian that is finding these slight advantages in terms of moving to the jungle, the early Ocean, getting his hands on that Rift Herald. So small advantages that's not necessarily reflected in the gold lead, but that Herald could quickly come out and even things up for FPX.
Definitely could. We're starting to see first completed items across the board. Manamoon stacking up for LWX. Protobelt is first on Doom B, as you would expect, and the Hextech Gunblade that you mentioned, Foss, has now been completed for Humanoid. FPX are going to step into the jungle here, I don't think. Well, now they know about No Scaring.
I think FPX is really just hoping that Splice try and come fight them, because that's what they would wait for. Even though GP Ultimate isn't up, that's kind of what they're daring Splice to do here, and it is just a second Ocean Drake, so Splice decide to keep up their lanes, and that's not too different from the way Splice has been able to play early games the whole year. I think even though Splice is a slow team, they're not bad early game, they're just different than the other top LEC teams. They still generally have gold leads, but it's through laning, which is exactly what we're seeing here.
They like to neutralize their opponent and try to make them play their style. Now, something that is kind of out of the ordinary is how well Chachi is actually doing up into this top lane. So finding something quite valuable in this Cho versus GP matchup, as now the Herald goes down mid, with Tien also behind it.
Used just a little bit late there. No plate's going to be taken by this, but they could still look for the tower. Humanoid jumping in onto Doan B. Tien there as well. Crispin LWX coming up from the bottom lane. Riptailed about to fall, but FPX do not want to go for the dive underneath the tower, and Splice will hold on to that tower in mid.
Splice doing a very good job playing defense on FPX so far. Once they start getting Essence Reaver onto Kabe and having a level 11 Cho'Gath with Righteous Glory, they're also going to have a pretty strong team fight, so things going quite well first 15 minutes of this game for Splice.
And it's actually quite reminiscent of the first time these two teams met, but it's very different for Splice. Just after they got demolished by J-Team, I think a lot of people have counted them out of this group, and now they've won their first game of the day. They're pushing FPX back. They're about 1,500 gold ahead at the 15 minute.
This was about reflection on what were the errors that Splice made to lose a lot of the faith, and it was execution-based errors. I felt like their game plan was quite clever every single time, but you had things like North Snaren diving towers or Humanoid overextending without any sort of safety, and that seems to be really cleaned up. Jack, you said it, it just feels like Humanoid's having a much better day, and you just need one good day today.
It's great to have the good day on the day when you play 3 games. Way better than having a good day on one of the first week group stage games, but the weakness of Splice has been the mid game, which is what's going to be put to the test here. They have a pretty good early game. 2,000 gold lead and first turret in exchange for 2 oceans, I'd say is still probably a slight advantage to Splice, but it depends on how they play from here on out.
Definitely does, especially since FPX have this team fighting comp that can work for them as the game progresses. We talked about Tien as their bridge, where here comes the fight in the bottom lane. Grand entrance used, they're trying to take down Chris. Here comes the hero's entrance, the hourglass has already been popped. Kobe fighting down towards the bottom side, takes down Chris, goes golden himself. Doing B is low, Tien is in the middle of the The jump in with the killer instinct, now LWX is called out by Xerxes and Norskaren, and the Fangs will sink in. No way out for LWX. Xerxes takes the kill, and underneath the tower, Humanoid and Vizichachi take a double.
That is a huge win for Splice. That's a 4-4-1, and now a 3-0 Cho'Gath, who's going to take a bite out of the turret as well.
And it was the numbers difference. It's the fact that it means more when it is Cho'Gath teleporting down to a fight than just the Gangplank ultimate. Gimgoon's still sitting on his TP. He'll be trading or attempting to trade back the tower, but doesn't necessarily have the minion wave behind him. Massive win for Splice.
Accelerated them 4,000 gold in the lead. Chachi's not going to be able to take down the tower completely, but players like that from Splice